Hey everyone, how are you? I am doing fine. Hope you guys are all doing well. I am going to share with you a little bit of a sermon that I have just recently not learned about, but we had at my church we had a Bible brunch for the women, and the topic of discussion was a woman in the Bible called Hagar. But what I got from the discussion was a whole lot more than Hagar. When you read certain pieces, chapters of the Bible, and you try to relate it to your own life, it may seem like you don't know where you fit in. So I'm sharing this story with you because you guys know how I'm on this walk of forgiveness and with my mom and all that. So, next day. So I decided I was going to write a letter to my mom. And I committed to it, did it. And I'm telling you, you just don't know how the enemy is going to attack you. You don't know what's going to come next. So I was all amped up, feeling like, oh, I feel, forgiveness in my heart. Got to write this letter, wrote it, and, I want to move forward with confronting my mom with this forgiveness that I want to achieve with her. So, I swear, right after the last video I made, I found out what I was having. I found out that I am having a baby girl. So, I decided I wanted to tell my family about the good news, and I contacted my family over the phone. So, everybody was pretty much multi-called in. We had a 3-way call. A bunch of my family was at the house, and then my dad was at work, so we just called him on 3-way. And what I had hoped would be a happy conversation, it turned, the way I left the conversation was feeling as though what should have been good news and only good news, it turned into an opportunity of criticism. That's the way I took it. I shared my good news, how I was having a baby girl, and that should have been it. Good news, great news, oh, we're looking forward to it, blah, blah, blah. But of course, my mom decided to bring up the fact that, oh, Latonia, you're so big. You weren't this big the last time you had a baby, and that baby must be big, and blah, 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 blah. And my sister, they were basically comparing my before and afters, how I looked for between this time and last time, and honestly, I'm 20 pounds heavier than I was the first time I had a baby. I didn't lose all my baby weight from the first baby. It's been only 2 years, and I now have another baby, so I know I have gained weight. And they don't know the background of my weight history. They're only going by my physical appearance. But I just took it as, I'm calling to tell you the good news. I'm having a baby girl. I don't need nobody talking about anything that has to do with weight or anything else. So I kind of took it as a moment for criticism, and I wasn't very happy after the call. I didn't feel happy. And then later on, I wind up talking to my sister about it, and I wind up, after talking to her, feeling even worse, because I felt like what should have been a confirmation to help clear why I was frustrated or help my sister understand my frustration, she didn't understand what I was saying. And then I felt even worse because I felt like I had made her feel bad in some way, which was not my intention. So, long story short, I got so caught up on this conversation. I don't know if I'm pregnant and these hormones of mine are going crazy, but I just let this I don't know, maybe it was icing on the cake. But long story short, I let this conversation, the events of that conversation really take a hold on me. I was so caught up in what everybody thought of me and how every time I try to explain myself, somebody thinks I'm accusing them of something, and how I was just made to feel worse. And I really just got sick of this whole situation, to be quite honest. And I found myself so frustrated. It was another I spent the whole day so frustrated that I felt like my joy had been stolen again. I felt like I couldn't do anything to get this off my mind, this frustration and how I felt. I just couldn't be happy for the rest of the day. And I pretty much went to sleep feeling that way. And I figured, you know what, tomorrow's a new day. I wake up and this will be all behind me. But of course, the next day came and I still was feeling a little like down about it. Down about not knowing what to do next. You know, how to overcome this feeling of... I really sunk myself into a hole, feeling a little depressed about my weight and this and that, and just the whole situation. Long story short, I found myself running away. I mean, literally. I just was so caught up in the situation. I found myself getting in my car because nothing I was doing in my house was helping me feel like I could move on, get happy again. I didn't feel motivated. I just felt stuck in my own mind. And I said, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of my house. I got to get some fresh air. I got to go out. I got to pray. I got to feel inspired. I have to get whatever's off my chest. I got to cry. I got to do whatever it takes so I can get happy again. Figure out what is really the problem here. So I jumped in my car, didn't know where I was going. Luckily, I live right near a park. So I wound up going, sitting in my car for, I kid you not, for a good 4 or 5 hours. I did not leave. I left the house with my Bible. I left my house with my notebook. I left my house with a pen and my phone. I figured that was the tools I needed to just be in devotion with God, because I needed my mind back. I needed control of my mind back. I needed to get into prayer mode over myself, and I didn't want no distractions. I really had to go seek God and figure out what in the world is going on with me. How am I going to overcome this? And God, I need to know you're here with me. And in that time of my escape, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. My husband probably thought I was crazy. In my time of my escape, I just sobbed to God about how I was feeling and that I didn't want to feel miserable anymore every time my mom said something negative to me, or every time somebody didn't understand what I was trying to say, didn't understand where I was coming from with what had been on my heart. Didn't want to feel stuck, feeling miserable all the time. Because this has been a rough few weeks for me, feeling the real pressure of moving forward with my mom situation. I've been resisting. I don't need to resist, but I've been resisting. And I needed this time with God to remind myself who I am, who God says I am, that I am not what everybody thinks, what everybody says, what everybody is putting on me and labeling me as, and not take it to heart, and just know that God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. God says that, that I'm great. I'm pulling out my notebook. This is what you got to do for yourself. When you're feeling down and out, you got to have access to these verses that will remind you of who God says you are, and will remind you of what he's capable of doing in your life. So basically, I started just meditating on these verses, praying, asking God for forgiveness. And in this time that I was in my car and praying in devotion, I started reading all kinds of articles online about, I don't know what I was looking, I don't remember. Wait, let me see. I'm going to try to see real quick what I was searching. If I could find what I was searching. Actually, you know what? I emailed some of the articles to myself. So, losing sight of your purpose, or losing sight of your destiny or just something along those lines. I was trying to look up verses about distractions. And I realized what I was facing was a distraction. So I began to ask God for forgiveness, because when I was going through my emotional roller coaster over this, I just said, you know what? This is not what's important here. My goal is to pick up the broken pieces and mend my relationship with my mother. This little deterrence has stolen my joy a whole day out of my life. I went to sleep, woke up, still felt miserable. And all it came down to was this was just a tactic of the enemy. And I got so caught up in this that I just lost a day of joy off my life being miserable. And it really took me taking the time to really think about the situation and realizing the fight that I'm in, the fight that I am in to achieve this relationship with my mom. And I began to think about that, and I said to myself, wow, Latonia, really? You just got so off track. You got caught up in what everybody else was thinking that you let that steal your joy and stopped me from moving forward with, looking over my letter and planning this conversation to have with my mom about forgiveness and mending our relationship. By getting caught up on this conversation that was just a roadblock to slow me down. Once I realized that this conversation that was meant for joy turned bad, and how it was a distraction to me because I could not move forward from it, I really pulled myself together and I started just listening to some praise and worship songs that basically spoke to my heart in that moment. And I do have my notebook here. I'm going to say some of the songs, because one song that's on my heart right now is this Yield My Heart by Kim Walker. Love that song. I began listening to that song. I began listening to another song also, Break Every Chain by Jesus Culture. Also another one by Kim Walker, I Have Found. I just started listening to these praise and worship songs that just reminded me of who Jesus is in my life. And one more, Jesus at the Center by Israel Houghton. I'm going to just let some of these songs play in the background, because I just found myself kind of basking in the praise, and to just remind myself who I am, who God is in my life, and that I cannot allow situations like this to hold me back from the victory that I'm seeking. So let me just see. So yes. So I began to just listen to these music, listen to these songs, and then I began to also meditate on the verses that speak to who God is in my life, and just telling myself, reassuring myself of what I'm capable of, and that I have to not give up the fight. I have to move forward with my mom's situation and not let these things come and keep me from what it is I'm supposed to be accomplishing. So all that is to say, don't let certain situations keep you from accomplishing, finishing the work God placed in your heart to do. I had to share it because I didn't, in the way it presented itself, I didn't see it as a distraction, and I let it take time off my life that I'm never going to get back. It was just a day, but it was still a day that I could have spent happy with my family and planning for the future. But instead, I was miserable and caught up in trying to find solutions to make my sister happy again, because I thought she was mad at me, and then thinking about what she might have said to my mom, and maybe my mom was mad at me. I was thinking of all these things that just didn't even matter in the end. Once I got past this and felt the joy coming back into my heart, I was able to go back home. I was able to go back home. I wasn't sure if I was gonna go back home. This is how bad it was. I ran away. Ran away from my situation. Didn't want to face it. And I ended up going back home. Feeling renewed. They that wait on the Lord. Good Lord. I mean, I had to have my spirit renewed. And it was. So, after that, it was like my sister had contacted me and my mom called like she usually does. It was like nothing had even happened. No one even cared. Well, they didn't know how I felt about what they were saying, but it was just like I thought the situation was way bigger than it was. I was hurt by it, but I was thinking it was getting worse when it wasn't. I was just making it worse within myself. So, want to leave that segment there, and then in the next video, I'm going to talk about the story of Hagar and how that related to my situation this week. Alright? Talk soon. Bye.